Being a running back in 2023 isn't exactly easy.
Khalil Herbert is still the clear favorite for running back one, but Ryan Poles went out and got a dynamic veteran in Foreman who had a great second half of last year, and then a tough, underrated rookie running back from Texas in Rashawn Johnson.
A lot of running backs out there are at risk of losing their starting job. Let's take a look today at 10 NFL running backs that could get beat out by their backup this season. Kenneth Walker III. 2022 was a pretty big year for the Seattle Seahawks. The team really rallied together in the first year after the painful public divorce with Russell Wilson, and Kenneth Walker III was a big part of that. The rookie running back really stepped up in a big way when Rashad Penny went down with an injury, and finished the year with 9 rushing touchdowns over 1,000 yards. All in all, it was a great year. We're not trying to take anything away from him, but Walker is already banged up in training camp thanks to a gnarly groin injury that has him listed as week to week. And unfortunately for Walker, Seattle snagged Zach Charbonnet, a very talented running back out of UCLA, in the second round. And usually, a team won't take a running back that high in the draft unless they have big plans to use him in the offense or on a regular basis. Between that rule of thumb and Walker's injury, we may very well see Charbonnet as the go-to guy in Seattle sooner rather than later. Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert is coming off a 2022 campaign in which he played 16 games, a rare feat for him. His production was pretty solid too. He led the Dolphins in carries with 181, rushing yards with 891, and tacked on 31 catches and 5 total touchdowns. But Mostert staying on the field is far from a safe bet. The man has been on and off the injury list ever since he got into the league. It's also well known that second-year head coach Mike McDaniel is not happy with what their rushing attack looked like in 2022. And though he took a fair portion of the blame, you have to think that he'll be looking to make as many changes as he needs in order to make that facet of the offense more effective. With Mostert barely holding on to the job as is, he could easily be replaced from within, perhaps by Jeff Wilson or via trade. Brian Robinson. Washington Commanders running back Brian Robinson was a fantastic story last year. He narrowly avoided tragedy before the season after getting wounded by gunshots and rallied back to action by the middle of the season. Honestly, a crazy and remarkable story. But unfortunately, the NFL is a cold business. And now that there's a new sheriff in town with Eric Bieniemy running the offense, Robinson may quickly find himself falling out of favor with his new coach. There has been a lot of whispers that Robinson may not fit the scheme that Bieniemy is looking to run, and that the new coach might favor Antonio Gibson because of his skill set. Gibson is speedy, shifty, and plays exceptionally well in space, both as a runner and a receiver. After all, Gibson played wide receiver in college. There are few running backs in the league with hands at his level. He could be exactly the piece that Bieniemy is looking for to revitalize what was a paltry offense in 2022. And that would be some bad news for Brian Robinson. KHALIL Herbert. People were expecting big things out of KHALIL Herbert in the Windy City this year after his breakout season in 2022. Despite starting just 1 game and missing 4 total, he was able to amass 731 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground for a somewhat inconsistent Bears offense. I can understand why Bears fans are excited about Herbert. After all, a mark of 5.7 yards per carry is no joke. With the departure of David Montgomery, the Bears' lead back last year, Herbert was expected to be the de facto starter heading into the 2023 season. But there is a very real chance that Herbert loses the starting job in Chicago within weeks of getting it. Chicago is deep at running back this year. They brought in a talented rookie through the draft in Rashawn Johnson. The 4th rounder played behind Bijan Robinson, who was widely considered to be the best back in the country all year. Chicago also acquired D'Onta Foreman, who has looked very legit during his 2 extended stretches as a starter. First for Tennessee when Derrick Henry was out with an injury, and then in Carolina after the midseason departure of Christian McCaffrey. Based on how outspoken Foreman has been about wanting to be the full-time starter, telling the media that he has no intention of being a backseat to Herbert.
I didn't come here to, I guess you would say, take a backseat to anybody.
Well, KHALIL Herbert's now heading into the season with a serious target on his back. Let's just say he's going to have his work cut out for him if he wants to hang on to this job all year long. Alexander Mattison. Alexander Mattison has been patiently biding his time in Minnesota behind Dalvin Cook ever since the Vikings snagged them in the 3rd round of the 2019 NFL Draft out of Boise State. To this point, he has gotten more than 134 attempts in a single season, but he has been a fairly reliable backup behind Cook, who always seems to miss a couple of games here and there due to injury. But that said, Mattison hasn't exactly looked like the same kind of superstar talent that Cook was for Minnesota. So he may have some issues trying to live up to the expectations that the fans and the organization have come to have for the team's running back. The Vikings already seem to be hedging their bets on Mattison by bringing in a speedster through the 2022 draft in Ty Chandler, whose 4.38 speed should pose a very real threat to Mattison's dreams of becoming the full-time starter. If Mattison can secure the starting job throughout the season and help the Vikings toward a playoff run, well, hey, it'll be a great story. All I'm saying is he's gonna have his work cut out for him. Miles Sanders. There's been a lot of changes down in Charlotte this offseason. The Panthers traded up to the first overall pick in the draft to snag Bryce Young, the promising former Alabama quarterback, and acquired former Eagles running back Miles Sanders. Now, the general consensus at the time of the signing was that based on his resume, he should get slotted into RB1 in Carolina and no problem. But there is still a very legitimate understudy in the Panthers locker room, that being Chuba Hubbard. Hubbard really shined in 2021 when Carolina's then starter Christian McCaffrey went down with an injury. Sanders, who has had his fair share of injuries over the years, needs to find a way to stay on the field. Because with enough time to stunt his game, Hubbard may never cede the starting job back to Sanders. Dameon Pierce. When Houston took Dameon Pierce in the 4th round out of Florida, the team had modest expectations for him, but he actually was one of the lone bright spots in an otherwise abysmal 2022 season for the Texans. He played just 13 games because a late season ankle injury left him sidelined for 4 games, but the rookie back managed to amass 939 yards and 4 touchdowns. Considering how little support he had on that offensive unit, that is a pretty solid performance. But it doesn't seem like the Texans are all that sold on making him their bell cow back in 2023. At least, not based on the acquisition of former Bills starting running back Devin Singletary. Houston also has a brand new head coach in D'Amico Ryans and a new OC, Bobby Slowick. Pierce may very well have to win this job outright again. After all, the Texans really didn't invest much in him. So, if there's a better option, they're gonna take it. RHAMONDRE Stevenson. Now, this one might come as a bit of a surprise because, well, RHAMONDRE Stevenson is coming off a pretty special 2022 season in which he averaged 5 yards a carry for 1,040 rushing yards and chipped in 69 receptions for 421 yards and another tutter. But with Bill Belichick at the helm, no running back is ever safe. And this rings particularly true heading into the 2023 season with the recent acquisition of Cowboys superstar running back Ezekiel Elliott. Just because New England signed Zeke, that doesn't mean that it is a far-gone conclusion that Stevenson is going to lose his job. In recent years, he hasn't looked like the same dynamic playmaker that he was coming out of Ohio State. But you have to think that acquisition is making Stevenson a little nervous. If he doesn't get off to a good start this year, or God forbid if he fumbles the ball, the Patriots now have a super legitimate option to swap in for him. Javonte Williams. Broncos picked up Samaje Perine, who is definitely capable of taking over lead duties. Javonte Williams was one of the hottest names on the block heading into the 2022 NFL season. He had just completed an exciting rookie campaign that saw him post over 1,200 all-purpose yards. And with the addition of Russell Wilson, people seem to think that the floodgates might open up for the young running back. Well, I mean, we all know how that went. Wilson had the single worst year of his professional career, and the Broncos' offense was one of the most pathetic units that we have seen in years. Things went equally sideways for Williams, who, in addition to fighting through the sludge of a woefully incompetent offense, also succumbed to a nasty knee injury. 4 games into the year, he tore his ACL, MCL, and PCL. Granted, nowadays, that isn't the career death sentence that it once was, but the former second-round pick is certainly gonna have his work cut out for him. Greg Scholes of The Athletic wrote recently, "Such a wicked combo of injuries does not only affect knee stability, but also its side-to-side movement," adding that they would lean on a more conservative approach and predict an optimal recovery time closer to week 5. This delay to Williams' return to action is further complicated by a new head coach coming into town, Sean Payton, as well as the acquisition of former Bengals running back Samaje Perine. Perine is proven, at least on an interim basis. If he balls out at the beginning of the season, like some of us expect him to, Williams might end up losing the job entirely. Isiah Pacheco. The running back position has been a bit of a revolving door in Kansas City since Andy Reid came to town. In fact, despite having one of the best offenses around, the Chiefs haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since 2017, when Kareem Hunt was still toting the rock for them and went for over 1,300 yards. After his rookie campaign saw 830 rushing yards on just 170 attempts, plus a number of dynamic plays in the postseason, there seemed to be a growing belief in the NFL that Isiah Pacheco could be the back to change that. But you know, I wouldn't be so sure. The Chiefs didn't invest too much into him as a 7th-round pick, and they've proven that they can have success with a lot of different running backs in recent years. At this point in his career, Andy Reid isn't afraid to change things up if it isn't working, or if he just sees another guy lighten it up in practice, that could be a game changer on Sunday. And the team still has Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon on the roster, giving Coach Reid very viable options if he chooses to do so. But which NFL running back do you think is the most likely to lose their starting job in the coming weeks? Was there anyone that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.